Hello guys, I have a solo battle for you. This time in the object 416, and you might know it as the pancake. For it has that moniker for obvious reasons, as you might be able to tell. And I unlocked this nice tier 9 gun earlier today. So I'll just do a quick comparison of the guns. You have the tier 8 on the left here and the tier 9 on the right. So both are 100mm caliber. Both have the same rate of fire. The tier 9 has better penetration by roughly 15 to 20. It has much better gold ammo penetration. I believe, this gun fires heat, and this gun fires APCR, so that would be why. Much better average damage, 250 versus 320. So at the same rate of fire, that's a significant increase in DPM. And I think the 416 actually has one of the best DPMs of any tier 8. I could be wrong on that, so please correct me if I'm wrong. 0.39 accuracy, pretty terrible by my standards because I'm used to playing the German mediums. 0.37 on the tier 9, again, it's not good, but it's workable. And you get a surprising amount of hits on the move. The fire control and the soft gun stats for the 416 is pretty good. It's not nearly as good as the T62A, for example, which is what I'm going for, but it's not bad. Aim time's the same, not that great, 2.3 seconds. And surprisingly, this is a longer gun, but it does weigh less, so I'm not sure what's up about that, but you know, the less weight the better. So I was happy to get that gun. If I still have the old gun, yeah, I do. You can tell. So the tier 9 gun goes from here to here. It's about that long. And the tier 8 gun is a lot shorter. So you'd think it'd weigh less, but it actually weighs more. But this gun is extremely nice. It's a nice improvement over the tier 8 gun. So I'll go ahead and jump into battle here. And I have an okay crew on it. One full skill. I'm at a 60, late 60% on my second skill. Nice. Okay, Redshire is not too great a map for this tank. Well, for me anyway, because I haven't gotten used to the map changes on this map yet. So I find myself going to spots where the terrain is bad. And this gun having no gun depression whatsoever, you need to know the terrain. So this map is tough for me in this tank, but as I learn the map changes more and more, it'll get better. Couple of pros for this tank. Number one, as I mentioned before, extremely, well, not extremely, but relatively good fire control, especially on the move. There's not a whole lot of gun bloom when you're moving or rotating the turret. Another pro is low profile. This thing is extremely low to the ground and it does not stick up much. Another pro would be maneuverability. It's an extremely maneuverable tank. It's got very good power to weight ratio. It hits 50 on flat ground pretty easily, and it turns very well. I don't think it has neutral steering. Oh, it does have neutral steering, so you can turn on a dime, which is always nice. Another plus is a very high rate of fire. So those are the majority of the good points for this tank. Nothing too surprising, as most of the Russian mediums are about the same in terms of general gameplay and what they're good for. Some of the cons. Now, the biggest con that I have, I'll save for last. But one that is less obvious is the amount of health that this tank has, which people is not big. It has 1200 health, while I think most of the mediums at this tier have roughly 1500. So it's, you can get two-shotted pretty easily in this tank. Even at tier 8 because of tanks like the ISU and the Roomba. Oh, another pro, I forgot. This tank has extremely good camo for what it is. Part of that's because of the low profile, but it does have inherently good camo values as well. Another con is that it does not have a fully rotational turret. It's only about 160 degrees to the front, as you can see on my damage panel on the lower left. So it's not 360 rotation, and that can give you problems. I think most people will probably describe the rear-mounted turret as a con, though I like the rear-mounted turrets. I think it actually benefits a tank like this more than hurts it. You can see that extremely high rate of fire there really helping out. Another con is the hull armor. You'd think that the hull armor would be kind of hard to pin since it's so flat, the lower plate is so thin. But what tends to happen is if you graze the top of a hull, it'll almost always go into your front turret. And that leads me to the biggest con for this tank that I've found, and that is the decent at best turret armor. I think the turret armor for this one is about 110 on the front. And to be frank, it's not good enough. Now, I understand that this tank is better in a more of a flanking role than a frontline brawling role. But when so many of the Russian mediums have excellent turret armor, I don't understand why they couldn't give this one decent turret armor. I mean, it's not even decent, really. It's below average. And it is, I mean, because of that, by itself it's not too much of a problem, but because this tank is so small, it makes the turret the easiest thing to hit on the tank. And unless you're up against, like, shitty guns like Churchills or Black Princes, pretty much anything that hits you medium to close range in the turret is going to pin. And you look at tanks like the T-54 at Tier 9, it has, on the stock turret, it's got about 200 millimeters armor on the front. And I think the upgraded turret has like 220. And the Tier 9 Object 430 Mark II has 245-ish millimeters of frontal armor on the turret. So I just don't understand why this tank's turret is 110, 105-ish. Let's see what it is. Yeah, 110 on the front. It's just not good enough. I would think that they would at least make it like a compromise at 150. Let's see what the A44's turret armor is. Yeah, 90. I mean, to go from 90 to 110, that's only 20 extra mils of armor going from Tier 7 to Tier 8. And once you hit Tier 8, you get a huge increase in gun penetration and gun damage in general from tanks. So a 20 mil increase in turret armor is not good enough. I would think it would make more sense if they would make it a more consistent increase. So go from 90 mils on the Tier 7 to maybe 150 on the Tier 9 to maybe 200 on the Tier 150 on the Tier 8 and then 200 on the Tier 9. It seems like they made the turret overly weak, I think. And you can argue, like I said, yeah, it is a sniping tank for most cases, but the gun isn't really accurate enough to be an effective sniping tank. So you have to play medium range, and you have to just worry all the time about getting grazed in the turret by snapshots. So that's the biggest downside to the tank I've found. I think once I get used to it, I have almost no experience with Russian medium tanks, so once I get used to the style of gameplay required, it'll be less of an issue for me. But I can imagine that for the typical average player playing through this tree, the turret armor would be a pretty big disappointment. But the good news, the light at the end of the tunnel, is that it does get a lot better at Tier 9. Both of the Tier 9s have phenomenally strong frontal turret armor. And then the T-54's case, on the upgraded turret, it also has decent side armor as well on the turret, so something to look forward to if you're planning on going down this tree. Just from my experience, the Tier 5 is what I start with on all my grinds, so I can't speak for Tier 4 and lower. But the Tier 5 is garbage. The Tier 6 is slightly better garbage. This Tier 7, the A44, I actually enjoyed quite a bit. It's got one of the derpiest guns I've ever seen at .45 accuracy. But I actually enjoyed it quite a bit, so it's not a bad tank, it just takes some patience. The Object 416 so far is also a good tank. I think it could be a little bit better. I wouldn't have any problem if they slightly lowered the DPM and increased the turret armor. I think that would be a fair trade-off. But as it stands, it's not a bad tank at all. I'll let you guys know when I get to Tier 9. What I'm going to do is break off to the T-54, and then I'll get my T-62A. And I'll talk more about why I chose the 62A over the 140 at a later time. Alrighty, so again, if you have any questions or comments, please leave those down in the comments section below. And as always, thank you for watching.